Hey Gio, Paul here. It's October the 20th, just doing your brake calipers now. This is the right side piston. It was sticking just like the left ones. I'll be doing both the brake calipers. Just want to show you where we're at with them and why I think that we need to replace them. On most other bikes, the seal is on the piston and the piston moves back and forth in the cylinder bore. But on this bike, this year in vintage, the seal is on the caliper and the piston moves back and forth. So this wouldn't be too big of a problem, except when the piston is pushed all the way back in. If my fingers here was indications to where the seal might be, you can see that this chrome, which is all chipping off here, would only be a problem when the piston was pushed all the way back in. And let's face it, the piston spends most of its time going that way, right? So it would almost always be just out of reach. And typically, this is why. The seal would be here in this vicinity, sealing all this back part, and there's oil back here. And then up here, which is exposed to the elements of driving on the road, you can expect pitting. Now, this isn't a problem. We could actually probably put this, clean up with some steel wool and probably put this guy back in and continue to run it as it is. The problem with this particular piston is right there. So it doesn't really matter where this piston is in the throat of the cylinder. The seal is going to continue to get pulverized with these scratches. Now, if I clean this off with a little bit of steel wool and sort of try to clean it up to be better than its first appearance. Shooby-doo-ah. Clean this off. Doesn't make a big difference, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, it doesn't make a big difference. So I'm going to say let's replace this piston because your brakes are just going to continue to stick if we don't. I'm going to pop out the left one and continue this video with the left one. Ah! Okay, Gio, this is part 2. This is the original piston that I showed you that is all chewed up and not looking good. We need to replace it. Yeah. Okay, so that guy's out of the way. And I didn't show you the other brake pad for this piston here. I already cleaned it off and it's looking good now. Here it is here, all cleaned up, nice. It's still a little pitted as you can see, but it's this is going to work. But this guy looked, it looked just like this all the way around the sides like this. And it's normal because this is the brake pad, and this part of the pad here behind the piston, they go like that. This part here is all exposed to the elements. So you can expect to see pitting, rust, and all that shit collecting in there, and then caught obviously behind it when it lines up. So that's that guy. This is still usable, but this is not. We're going to replace this. Okay, so here is the brake pad and the piston for the left side of the bike. And this is just how bad the right side was. So they kind of match, but you can also see why your brakes were probably sticking. Lots of brake pad life left, but wow, the amount of rust and corrosion you've got stuffed up in here is obviously conducive to why the left side was sticking. You can see the rotor goes in this direction because it's worn out here and sort of slipping by there. Okay, so we'll put that guy down there. And this is your piston. Not looking a whole lot better than the right side. This is the left side piston. There's a giant score right here. Let me just clean this off a little bit more. Get this all cleaned up. All right. All right. So remember I was telling you that the piston, if my fingers are where the seal goes, the piston would be spending most of its time probably in this position. So this is normal, right? Because remember the pad goes on this end and it's exposed to rust, et cetera, all the elements of being on the road. So this is normal and it's actually not terrible, but it's beyond here between where my fingers are. As the piston moves in this direction, it goes that way over time. You can see that this really bad pitting here is not going to help the life. Wow, look at that score there. Is not going to help the life of the O-ring that is in the caliper. So this one's not terrible, but reusing it, I don't personally recommend it. If it doesn't leak, and I'd be surprised if it didn't, It will. And that's just it. All right, sir. So you need, basically you need 2 pistons, in my opinion. Yeah, 2 pistons and the brake. Oh. Okay, sorry, the compressor kicked in there. And the brake pads, still lots of life here, so you don't need to get new ones. I could clean all this shit off, and you continue to use those. Brake pad life. This is the wear indicator right here. This groove. And I'd say you're probably 45% life left-ish. And that goes on both of them, kind of. Maybe there's a little bit more on this one because it was stuck than there is on this side. Anyway, there we are. Geo, and just the last part here. I thought you might find this part particularly interesting. So this is inside your caliper. Whoa, try and do this with one hand. Okay, so this is inside your caliper. All this rust here, this is all going to be where the brake pad sits. Okay, so right here is going to be where the brake pad sits. And then this is the O-ring, which I pulled out for you because I thought you might be curious to see it. It goes, get this guy out of here. It goes in that groove right there. And typically when we see a bad caliper, there's crystals all formed in there from brake pads, moisture, and heat all being sort of mixed up in there. And then, of course, at the very bottom, where the piston actually resides down there, you would see crystals all collecting down in here. This is not great, but it's not terrible. This can all be cleaned up and used again, and I'm going to encourage you to do so. And that's it.